Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tim, and welcome to Tim Talks, the show that's only partially a show, but really is just an excuse for me to talk to my very talented friends. And speaking of talented friends, I have another one here with me today. He's one of the writers over at Jackbox Games, and the director of probably my favorite part of the Jackbox Party Pack, Drawful. Arnie Niekamp. Welcome, sir. Nycamp, did I say that right?
It's Nycamp, actually, but most people say it as Nycamp. It's a weird German spelling.
Oh, gotcha. So yeah, just real quick, let's get this part out of the way. Give us your sort of CV over there at Jackbox. What do you do?
Over the years, I've mostly been a writer. I've written for all the games over the last 8 or 9 years over there.
Oh, wow.
But lately, I've started to get a little bit more into like lead editorial and directing and sort of game creation stuff. So, writer for You Don't Know Jack, writer for a lot of different You Don't Know Jacks.
Yeah,
basically, that's most of what we've been doing for the last several years.
I mean, what you have a winning formula. I mean, from the first game, I picked up from You Don't Know Jack the Ride.
Yeah,
which, long story short, a girl got me to play it, and we spent all night, New Year's Eve, when we could have been doing other things, playing You Don't Know Jack the Ride because it was just too much fun.
Exactly. It's as fun as almost anything you could have been doing that night.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sort of just like you. I came to it as a fan myself. I probably played 3 first. The Ride was always my favorite.
Yeah.
And came on about 8 or 9 years ago, and as we sort of were bringing the franchise back to life.
Right.
But I write for You Don't Know Jack. I do some voices in the games, and since then I helped create Drawful, direct Drawful, write for that, wrote for Fibbage.
So
basically a lot of writing.
What does directing for a video game entail? Like, most people are familiar with what a director for a movie does. He's kind of in charge of putting all the departments in the right direction, basically.
It's fairly similar.
Yeah.
It probably varies dramatically from game to game and from studio to studio. Drawful was pretty small, surprisingly small team, even for us. I did most of the writing, the majority of it. And we had one artist, another artist helping out a little bit, and basically one programmer.
Real quick, we've kind of forgot to give a little intro to Drawful for those who haven't played it before. Tell them what Drawful is.
So Drawful, it's funny. It's kind of easier to explain Drawful if you explain Fibbage first.
Okay.
But, basically, it's a drawing game. You use your phone as your controller. You draw. You're given a prompt, something.
And we'll have a little cut in down below of the visuals as you talk about it.
Yeah, something down here, or over here, or up here. You're given a prompt, an intentionally difficult thing to draw, something that's either really hard to draw or even impossible to draw, and intentionally so that you're drawing, the thing that you draw will be anywhere from terrible to just hard to ever guess what it is.
Especially since you're drawing on your phone or tablet.
Especially since you're drawing on your phone. And there's no erase. Intentionally, there's no erase. It's called Drawful for a reason. We want these drawings to be bad because everyone then is like, what is that? And everyone on their devices, again, they type in what they think the prompt was. And then sort of, I guess, balderdash style, you see all of the guesses along with the true answer, and everyone guesses what the drawing really is.
Now, I've had something happen to me that I've wanted to ask you about since it happened to me. One of the nights of Drawful that we had over here, I turned up as one of the answers. And it blew my freaking mind.
You know what it is? It's that you are famous enough.
All right. I know when I'm getting smoke blown up my skirt.
We are very big fans of Easter eggs at Jackbox Games. I mean, going way back to like the early You Don't Know Jack games. We tend to hide weird stuff that maybe almost no one will ever see. Like, we put way too much time and work into stuff that a very small fraction of people will ever come across. So that's kind of the candy as a game maker, where you're sort of like near the end of the process and it's like, what can we put in that's fun just for us and to see if it blow people's minds. There are 2 or 3 prompts in Drawful that will pull names of other players from the game. So, and it's fun. The most exciting thing is that like the game has been very popular on Twitch and YouTube Let's Plays. So we get to watch people play, and we get to see people's minds being blown like, in the moment. It's just really fun.
Oh God, I'd imagine. So I love one of my favorite Easter eggs is in You Don't Know Jack the Ride, and it's if you in the is it the gibberish question? Yeah, I think it's when you type in "fuck you" to Cookie. If you do it 3 times, it kicks you out of the game. It just straight up kicks you out. It's the best thing in the world.
Yeah,
I love stuff like that.
I think that may actually be the very first You Don't Know Jack has a variation on that, or maybe it's the second one.
Yeah.
Where if you you type in "fuck you" and it's shocking to hear the host go, "Oh, funny, clever." Like first, you're just surprised that it knows what you've done.
Yeah.
Because
And then the various names that you can put in, and I mean, they're all littered with stuff like that, and it's I think I'm doing a series of You Don't Know Jack the Ride because it was my first and my favorite, and I've never actually gotten all the way to the bottom. So doing it now, I'm kind of thinking about the last episode kind of being a very special, here's all the Easter eggs, here's all the little things that we didn't do kind of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, the ride is easily my favorite too. It's funny. I mean, we still have a surprising number of people on the team that made that game. We have a number of people that made the first game still
really
work there. I mean, Cookie, we still have Cookie, who was like wasn't the host of the first game, but was like the login guy of the first game.
Yeah,
we still have Harry Gottlieb, the creator of the game, still is here. The guy who drew the sexy owl in Drawful, the art guy for Drawful, has been here since the very beginning. It's the same guy who picked that bald head that's sort of behind you, cleverly placed, the You Don't Know Jack logo.
Yeah, what can I say? I am actually a fan. Like people will say that, especially when they're doing interviews and stuff like this, and it'll just be, something to say because it feels no, I really have been playing You Don't Know Jack games forever.
That's great. I mean, I'm the same way. For me, growing up, there were 2 things that made me stop and go, wait a second, it's someone's job to do that. You Know Jack was one, and Mystery Science Theater 3000 was the other.
Yeah.
I remember just being like, God, if I could get to there and that was my job, what could be better? And now that is my job, and I realize it's a horrible grind.
Yeah, right. Especially considering you have so many different options for those kind of games. Let's just single out You Don't Know Jack. You have all the different number of players that there can be. You have all the different hosts that there can be. You have all the different combinations of answers and how the players got to those. And so many different lines of dialogue to think about and coordinate and plan. And oh my God, it just hurts your brain to think about.
It is crazy. I mean, the sheer amount of writing that goes into even just one question compared to one question of any other trivia game. So, you have to come up with the funny title. And then you have
the funny fake titles that don't get picked.
The funny fake titles that don't get picked. Some kind of introduction, what the question itself is, 4 answers. Ideally, the answers themselves are funny. Not all questions do, but the better questions have some kind of funny wording of the right and wrong answers.
Yeah.
Anywhere from half to all of the wrong answer choices have their own jokes as well. So you write those, some kind of outro joke. It's kind of like a ridiculous amount of stuff, basically.
It really is. And that's just one question.
That's just one question.
Maybe a quarter or less of which one person will hear on one run through.
This is one of my favorite examples of ways that we do ridiculous things that almost no one ever sees. Actually, I have two of them. The first is, so the very first host of You Don't Know Jack, Nate Shapiro, was voiced by Harry Gottlieb, who created the game. He's still around. He's still the owner of the company. He's still, he's not in every day, but he pokes his head in a lot, and his fingerprints are on every game that we do.
He does a lot more stuff over at Jellyvision Labs, yeah.
Yeah, he does a lot of stuff over there,
not to segue away from your story.
But... No, totally. But he's definitely still around. But people are always like, some people's favorite is Cookie. My favorite host is Cookie. Some people's favorite is Nate Shapiro. And it's so funny that we're like, we have Harry here. Why don't we have Nate Shapiro make an appearance in the game?
Yeah.
So there is an appearance of Nate Shapiro in, I can't remember if it's the Facebook version or Jack 2015. It all starts to blur together a little bit. There's an appearance of him, but it's in a wrong answer choice somewhere buried in the game. So if you're a big fan of Nate Shapiro, you may just accidentally stumble across him popping up in the game, but probably not, because it's just hidden in there.
Yeah, and it's not often that you find companies that are willing to, put those little dumb things in there. You're right. Maybe 5% of people who ever play that game will ever find it, ever. And that's okay.
The absolute craziest waste of time that we ever did, at least as long as I've been in the company, in Jack 2011, which I believe is the one you have back there. There would be sometimes at the very beginning of the game, you would hear background chatter of people working in the studio, and they'd be talking about something. There were a couple of those would be holiday specific, which isn't anything new. We've done that in a lot of our games. It would be like, hey, it's New Year's Eve. Why are you playing right now? But we did ones that would only play on one day ever. Like, not that day every year. We would pick a specific day, and they would talk about something going on Cookie Masterson's Facebook page, where they would be like making jokes about having gotten Cookie's password, and posting dumb things on his Facebook page.
Right. And
then on that day, we posted those things on his Facebook page. I don't know if a single person ever stumbled across that. Probably not. Because it only ever played. I mean, it probably happened about 5 times. There were 5 separate ones.
Right.
That only ever played once. I'm sure people heard them, maybe didn't.
And never really thought about them again.
Never thought about it. It was a crazy.
That is crazy awesome. Like, yes, it is totally crazy to expect anyone to ever put those two together. But the fact that you still did it, like, that's the reason why Jackbox and Jellyvision former have been amazing company to watch. It's been really interesting to see you guys take new technologies and incorporate them in and try and revive the brand that way. When you took the game to Facebook, it really made me sad because I love the standalone versions. That's the way I play You Don't Know Jack. But I understood the move to make it there because it let me play it on my phone. It let me play it on my tablet. It let me play it in other places that I've never been able to play the game before. And then when you brought it back and brought in Drawful, that includes the phones and the tablets. What have you learned that has kind of kept you now ahead of the curve? Like, you went from behind the 8 ball to ahead of the curve.
That's a good question. We spent a couple of years, you're right, like doing the kind of Facebook and mobile stuff. That was partly just to kind of explore those models. The game industry has been changing. Like, every couple of years, everyone is like, everyone's got to do Facebook now. Everyone's got to do mobile. And now, thankfully, it's kind of moving back towards console again, which I just think is more fun. It's more exciting to kind of do that stuff. It's interesting. We've been doing the same game for such a long time. Trying to find ways to make it fresh. Honestly, as much as we all still have a deep love of You Don't Know Jack and think that You Don't Know Jack 2015 is a great version of the game, I think we're more than that, just super excited that people are really embracing the new games that are in the pack.
Yeah.
We did the party pack and we were like, we're going to come out with a new You Don't Know Jack and have just a kind of crazy amount of extras in it. We're just going to put some new games in there, and hopefully maybe enough people will like Fibbage or enough people will like Drawful that will have more than just the You Don't Know Jack franchise.
Right.
And the funny thing that's happened is, honestly, I think more people are into Fibbage right now. Fibbage is probably the most popular one. More people are probably talking about Fibbage than You Don't Know Jack. I think there are lots of people out there that are huge You Don't Know Jack fans that still have no concept
of those other games. Yeah, and that's fine. That's all well and good. But now this new market, these people who don't play You Don't Know Jack that absolutely love Fibbage and Drawful and Word Spud and all the other games that come in that pack.
Yeah. Honestly, I think there are a lot of people that are really into Fibbage right now that had never heard of You Don't Know Jack before. And that's great. That's great for us because we love our sort of fans that have stuck with us over the years, but we're also excited to bring new people to it and kind of explore this new stuff. And basically, we kind of like half lucked into, half stumbled into this idea of using the phones as controllers.
Yeah.
And when we realized what we had, we were like, let's...
How do you mean half luck, half stumble?
You know, I'm a writer, so I'm not as smart as the tech people to know exactly how the whole process went along. But it's so funny to kind of like poke your head in every month or so and see something evolving, basically.
Right.
And it sort of started with, I think it was, we did a version of You Don't Know Jack on the iPad, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe you could mirror using an Apple TV. And the idea was, you know, use your phone as a controller, just in the same way there's like a Scrabble app, right? Like the Scrabble iPad app, and you use your iPhone to have your tiles on it. And that's fun. That's really cool. I think we originally had a app like called the Jackpad or something like that. Everything accidentally.
Of course. Yeah. You know,
really dirty. And it was just a controller for the iPad version. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, if you want to play with a bunch of people on your iPad, what controller?
What was the name of that game on the PS1 that had the buzzer with the big red light? Buzz It or something? I don't remember. But yeah, no, it's a substitute for those extra peripheries that used to have to come with consoles and made the games more expensive.
Exactly. So we were like, so we started doing that, and then we were thinking like, oh, we could do more with that. It really made us realize it opened up the game possibilities, because there's a lot more stuff you can do if everyone doesn't, if your controller is your phone, right? Like you can have secrets from other people. You can type in things without having to sit and like laboriously watch someone type using like the interface on a console,
which is just god awful.
Yeah. And then we kind of figured out that we could do it not as an app. I know there's some people that are like, could you please make it an app? And there's some appeal to that, but the barrier to entry is so much lower if it's not.
Right. And especially considering the way that Drawful and Fibbage work, you kind of need that big screen that everyone can be away from and kind of be secretive around. And now I don't know that you could get that on a pad. I mean, you could, but
totally.
You would have to do that trick of streaming it to the TV.
Yeah. So, and we kind of were really excited about it. And I mean, Fibbage is so fun. And people are so into it. And Drawful, you know, I'm very biased, and that's my favorite because that's the one that I directed.
Yeah.
And it's literally after we finished Fibbage, I turned to one of our engineers, and I was just like, could we just draw on your phone? I'm just thinking of what else you could do. I was like, how hard? Like if I drew something on my phone, could we send that? Is that difficult? And he said, well, I don't know. Let me do some research. And like a day later, he's like, oh, yeah, it's real easy.
So, it turns out the smart thing to do is just go through a browser. I mean, that's the brilliant part. It's browser based. So it's literally not limited by a brand or an app that you have to get. It's if you can get to a browser, you can play this game on your thing.
Yeah. And apps are like, I mean, there's certain things that an app would allow us to do. They would maybe be more cool. You can do more voice stuff. You can take pictures, stuff like that maybe we may explore in the future, but that you can't necessarily do with just a web browser, at least not on the iPhone. Which
have singular sounds come out of singular phones, you know, that sort of thing.
Exactly. But the web browser is just like, because you have friends over, you don't want to be like, download this app. Everyone's going to
exactly.
No, I don't want to.
Yeah, exactly. Then what's your Wi-Fi password? What's this? You got to get disseminate the information. Okay, hand out your note cards, everybody. Everybody got the information. Okay, we're good to go. No, it's just simple. And you got to love stuff like that. It's always really interesting to see the new technologies integrated in ways that you never thought of before.
And the craziest part, I mean, the real thing that kind of surprised us was we were definitely aware of Twitch, but we weren't thinking about it that much. We also knew that we could play the game. You know, we have a lot of people that work remotely, or the telecommute in our office. And we have giant TVs in our office that people's faces are just on all day. They choose to. Like, some people would hate that, but we have some people that are like, it's lonely working from home. I want to
be able to look over and say, hey guys.
Yeah, exactly. So we try to include them as much as possible in our game testing. So we quickly realized, we're like, oh, we can play Fibbage. It's just a website, so you can play from there, and it works just fine. But we didn't make that mental leap to Twitch for whatever reason.
Right, and so it's become huge.
Yeah, and then Fibbage came out, and suddenly we see people playing it on Twitch, and it works really well. Obviously, there's some delay, so certain things are a little bit wonky. But it was really exciting, and also just to see how viral stuff on Twitch can be. You know, we were Fibbage was mentioned on the Today Show, and it like nothing happened. Like no bump in sales, no chatter on Twitter, nothing. Rooster Teeth plays Fibbage, and boom, you know, 1,000 more sales immediately. You know, lots of talk on Twitter.
It's absolutely crazy to see what influences the markets anymore, and it ain't those traditional means.
And it's exciting, and it's great. I mean, it's awesome because I would rather watch someone play something on Twitch than watch the Today Show anyway. It speaks to me.
I caught one of you guys' streams where you were doing a Q&A.
We're still figuring it out, so I'm sure it was a little rough.
Well, it was a Q&A with you guys and Cookie, the actor who plays Cookie. And y'all were just answering questions and playing Fibbage with the people. It was great. And I mean, it's amazing that not only can the game is just a way to bring people together, but once the people are together, that's where the fun begins.
Yeah, I mean, I think we believe that the game is best at home around a couch with a bunch of your friends. Like that's the purest, best version of these games. Most of them. At least Fibbage and Drawful and Jack probably.
Right.
Excuse me. It's always exciting to just belch in the middle of a. But it's also really awesome to play them on Twitch, and there's like a lot of exciting things that can happen, and.
Yeah, especially considering the way that time works in Drawful and Fibbage. Yeah. It's a little bit more forgiving than like the fast-paced nature of You Don't Know Jack.
Yeah, You Don't Know Jack was never designed to work over Twitch. Yeah. And, by the time we discovered all the possibilities of doing it on Twitch, the very, very long process of making You Don't Know Jack game is pretty much done. So it was sort of like, we either disappear for a year and rework this entirely, or... we just Jack is what it is. It's better at home. Yeah. But we did we did quickly. We're like, what can we do to make Drawful better?
More friendly.
More friendly. What more stuff can we kick to the phone so you can see stuff if there's a delay? We made the timers longer in Drawful. It's such a small thing. If you're playing with your friends at home, the timers for Drawful are much longer than they really need to be.
Yeah.
You're given a lot more time than you need because it's allowing for Twitch delay, basically.
Unless you got that one jackwagon in the back with an iPad just sitting there drawing the Mona Lisa.
But it's also kind of fun to yell at that last person. Like, come on, why are you still drawing? It doesn't matter. Just hit send. But also, since the time, like when everyone gets in, the timer is done anyway, so it doesn't matter. But we were quickly being like, what can we do to make the twitching experience better without hurting the experience at home? And we're learning a lot of stuff, and we're talking about a lot of stuff moving forward that a whole lot of implementation stuff that I can't really talk about, but like just embracing it more because it's very potent viral marketing, but it's also just fun. Like we like playing it that way. Yeah.
And so that's a lot of what's next for Jackbox, is a lot of those new integrations of tech like that.
Yeah. I mean, there's still a good amount of like rolling the party pack out on a couple more weird platforms. There's some stuff we'd love to have it on. It's just not going to happen probably. Right. Or it's unlikely to happen on. But there are other weird, surprising places where it's like, oh, it'd be very easy to release it on this. So we probably...
Like the Amazon stick.
Like the Amazon stick, exactly. And there are a lot... And it's funny, we're living in the age of like, there's a new stick of some kind every week now.
Exactly.
So if it's easy for us to sort of do that, and make sure that it works well, we're definitely going to do that. But we're also just kind of beginning to rumble on what the next stuff is going to be. And there's a lot of really awesome stuff, but unfortunately I can't really talk about any of it.
My favorite thing that I've been able to do with Steam since you released the Party Pack on PC is since it has the streaming capability, I'll set the game up on my computer and then run downstairs, hook the laptop up to the telly, stream from my computer to the telly, and then have everybody there in the living room playing.
That's smart.
It's incredible. 2015. Like, we got Nike working on the self-zipping shoes. We need the hoverboard, but for the most part, we're in the freaking future, and it's amazing.
It's great. I mean, we're like at that place where we're just a couple of steps away from everything being perfect, right? It's sort of like, you still have to do the little workarounds for things, like, but we're so close to everything being like the tech house that everybody wants.
Yeah.
But it's an exciting time.
So, as this is also my first episode of the new year, you get to be the one who answers this question. What are you looking forward to most in 2015?
What am I looking forward to most in 2015? Oh my gosh. You know, my wife and I just had a baby recently.
Congratulations.
So everything is kind of the baby right now. It's like I'm at work and doing exciting stuff, and then I come home and it's baby stuff, and I don't have time. Like, we can't see movies. We don't. I can't play really much of anything. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm looking, like, the pop culture things I'm looking forward to. Of course, I'm looking forward to the new Avengers movie. I'm a huge Joss Whedon fan from way, way back. I even like Dollhouse. Like, I'm one of those people who like this stuff.
I've, found it strangely compelling as well. It's interesting the things that you can connect with if you just kind of let go of all the preconceived notions of what makes good television. And you can just get past it and enjoy it.
It's one of those shows you can't really recommend to someone because you have to say, look, you are going to have to watch 8, 9, 10 terrible episodes of television. And then it's really good. And people are like,
once Alan Tudyk shows up, it's fantastic.
Yeah. It's the same with that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Look, you're going to have to watch almost an entire season of pretty bad TV. And then it's good. Also Fringe, which I really liked. Look, you're going to have to watch a season of mediocre X-Files ripoff TV, and then it's amazing. People don't want to do that, and they probably should.
No. But it's interesting. People have a lot less patience for it now, especially with the YouTube nature of everything being 5 minutes long. If you watch something that sucks and it's 5 minutes, you wasted 5 minutes of your life. It's not a big deal. But you don't get a refund for watching an entire shitty movie.
That is true. That is true. I'm super looking forward to, this is in 2016, the return of Twin Peaks. I'm a huge Twin Peaks fan. That was another thing that blew my mind as a kid. And it's just crazy to me that show is coming back at all. It's my...
I never caught the original run. That was a little bit out of my scope at the time. But it's interesting, that a lot of shows that are making the comeback now, Miami Vice, Hawaii Five-0, wasn't it? Yeah. And all of those shows are starting to kind of find the $6 Million Man. He's coming back as the $6 billion man.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy, though. Those are like reboots, right? Like, this is literally taking a show that was intensely weird and had an insane cliffhanger at the end of it. And then 25 years later being like, oh, hey, let's check in and see what happened with everybody. Let's get the actors back.
I think I remember seeing that because they didn't they say in the finale something like, we'll catch up in 25 years?
There is a reference. There's a reference, like, the show, it would take an hour to explain all the weird things going on in Twin Peaks, but there is like a sort of oblique mention of we'll see you in 25 years in a dream, basically. And it's exciting. It's all on Netflix. I recommend people check it out. It's maybe it's one of those things you had to watch it at the time, but I really recommend it.
And so one of the other things that you've been involved with is an improv group there in Chicago called World News Tonight.
Yeah, I've been performing long-form comedy improv in Chicago for a long time. And that show I've been doing for 11 years, I think, and it's mostly the same cast. We do it every Saturday at 8 o'clock. Every once in a while we travel with it, but we're all getting kind of a little too old to do that. But it's mostly this original cast. The few people that don't do it anymore are becoming wildly famous. It's like maybe I should have quit.
Now, what I've been able to gather is you'll take clips from newspaper articles and then read the articles and make a scene based around the contents.
Yeah, the audience comes in, their newspaper's sitting out. You cut out articles at random, put them on the board. We don't look at them beforehand.
Oh, okay.
We don't look at them, and then we start the show. We grab one, we read the headline and a few sentences, and then we just immediately do scenes inspired by that. We'll do 3 or 4 scenes on that article, and then we'll just go pick another article. And whatever it is, we'll do scenes on them. Sometimes they'll be literally about the thing. You know, if it's something about Putin, we'll do some scenes about Putin, but it also might, some weird wording in the article might inspire a scene. You know, do some kind of like, it's called mapping in improv, kind of like metaphorically dealing with the issue where, you know, instead of playing Putin, you play like a couple whose relationship is similar to the relationship between the U.S. and
Russia. Yeah.
I'm making it sound a lot smarter than it is. It's mostly poop jokes and like.
But isn't that what all improv boils down to eventually?
It is.
At least the good stuff.
Yeah. If you are in Chicago, I don't hesitate to say, if you're in Chicago and you like comedy, you should check out a World News show. Yeah. Long form improv is really awesome, but it can sometimes be great and can sometimes be terrible. I wouldn't claim that we are, you know, I'm biased in thinking that we're one of the better ones in Chicago, but at the very least, we've been around long enough that if it's not always great, it's at least never bad. Like we've gotten to that point where it's never bad. It's always a pretty fun show.
Improv is one of those weird things where sometimes it can go really great, sometimes it doesn't.
Yes.
And it all depends on the night and the audience and the situation and the performers, and so many things have to work together exactly improvised on the moment. Like,
it's true.
It takes movie studios 6 months to sometimes 2 years to create that perfect magic moment that you see on the screen, and you guys have to come up with it like that.
Yeah, but that's part of the fun. I mean, the fact that it could go completely wrong is part of the charm of it.
Absolutely.
And I think, I don't remember who said this, but the thing you get from doing improv for a long time is that your hit rate gets higher. You can never guarantee that something's not going to go wrong. Yeah. But you can get, it's like, you know, being a batter, that you're just going to hit more of those balls.
Absolutely.
And also if something goes wrong, luckily you just edit and do another scene.
Right. Fun. And you have partners to fall back on, and you have other people that hopefully you can trust enough to look at with that deer in the headlights look, and they'll go, oh yeah, no, I totally got you. You're fine.
I mean, my favorite is when things do kind of go, like when the crazy things that happen are the things you always remember the most. Like we had a show a couple of years ago where an audience member, for some reason, they were in the front row. They had to get to the bathroom on the other side. They got up, and it was a packed show, so there was no space. It was hard. There's no space to get to the other side without running across the stage.
Right.
So this audience member, in the middle of a scene, runs across the stage, vomiting, spewing through the sides of his hands, like onto the stage in the middle of the scene. And everyone in the whole theater, performers and audience, was just like, what the fuck?
You can't deny that just happened.
Exactly. And then you just kind of go on with it. And everyone just kind of has this fun shared moment of this crazy thing happen. It gets cleaned up. We make jokes about it. I think it happened, the scene that was happening took place in a Target for some reason. And so the rest of the show, whenever a scene took place in like a Target, someone would pretend to vomit and run around on the stage. You just use it, basically.
But yeah, exactly. You take those moments and you kind of figure out what the hell to do with them. I did live performing is what I did in college as well. I theater grad. Now I do a show on the internet. So way to use that college degree. But anyway, we did a show in my undergrad called Noises Off, which is a big sex farce, and it involves a lot of flying props that have to be in very specific places at very specific points in the show. And an actor skipped like 3 pages. And so this cactus had to be on the other side of the stage because it comes in somewhere else, but it was over here and there's nowhere to take it because the backstage is part of the show. Like in that show, there is nowhere to hide. So it ended up, one of the characters just basically came up behind the guy who skipped 3 pages and shoved the cactus in his butt and kicked him off the other side of the stage and said, I think you may need this. And we just proceeded to go on where we were. Oh God. But what draws you to live performing? That's not something a writer typically skews towards.
I think the thing that draws me to it is that writing is lonely. I mean, I always like having a creative outlet, but writing is this thing. Even with our games, we can see people playing them on Twitch, which is exciting, but usually it's very removed from yourself. You don't really get that moment.
Right.
And I think I was drawn towards improv specifically because it is there is a writing element to it. You're kind of writing in real time, basically.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
There are different types of performers. There's some that are more feeling performers that come at it from a more emotional place. I'm probably more of a thinking performer, so I come at it from like a, thinking really hard kind of place. But after doing it over the years, I've gotten better at not overthinking it.
Yeah.
Just kind of, which is good for me. And I've learned a lot about writing from performing. You're really going to learn what works and doesn't work when an audience is either going to laugh or not laugh.
You get that immediate response.
Yeah. You start to really, when you feel the pain of what doesn't work, you really learn that lesson.
And that's one of the horrible things about a writer's room. Not only, I mean, you have a lot of people with similar ways of thinking, so they're probably all going to find very similar things funny. But that's up to the head writer to kind of compose that room to make sure that everybody plays off of each other and everything builds. But when you just throw a joke out there, you got to feel the freedom and the carefreeness to know that if it just flops, nobody's going to judge you. Nobody's going to be like, God, that guy, he's a jerk. Why did he say that thing about the beaver with the big teeth? You got to know that it's just going to be glossed over and they're going to kind of poke fun at you for it later, but you're free to make those kind of mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing that I've learned so many lessons from improv that I use in my writing, but I think over the years, without overthinking it, I've started to have my philosophies about comedy and what stuff works. And for me, surprise is the best thing.
Right.
If you can surprise with improv, like the great thing about improv is you surprise the audience and you surprise yourself. There's this shared moment of like, I didn't know I was going to say that. I'm just as surprised as you are. Yeah. And it's this weird electric thing. In writing games, and every day I would think about this when writing Drawful prompts, of which there are like over 1,000 of them, was constantly, what is a new way to surprise the player? Like using a very kind of limiting format, what is a way to make it constantly different and to undercut the player's expectations and to have it be something that they don't think it's going to be and to surprise them.
Yeah.
The craziest example is the Easter egg that we mentioned at the beginning of this conversation of the player doesn't expect to see their name as one of the prompts.
Yeah.
There are a couple prompts that are misspelled on purpose. And people don't expect that, and that's a surprise. I think it makes people angry. But in the long run, I think it makes the game better because you realize you can't feel safe about knowing what an answer is going to be.
Yeah.
Like I really tried, the thing I tried hardest to do was make it so that the voice of the prompts is unknowable. To never be like, well, it's definitely, like, I feel like I know how these types of prompts are written.
Right. Because you can kind of figure out the voice of You Don't Know Jack and know where the questions are coming from. You can figure out, okay, they're going to put a comedy angle on it, but these are the keys that I need to look for to know how to answer the question. But there really isn't any of that in Drawful.
Yeah, I really, Drawful and Fibbage are both about letting the people playing the game be funny. Mm-hmm. You know, Jack is about like, hey, we're going to be funny for you. And, you get to play this game. Fibbage and Drawful we are going to serve up situations for you to be funny with your friends and for funny things to happen in the room that you're in. And with Drawful specifically, the crazier and weirder, if the prompts can be anything, then you as a player can write anything, and it conceivably could be right.
Yeah.
So that encourages the player to write weirder and funnier things. And they might be right, you know, and
it's interesting to watch people's sensibilities loosen up as well.
Yeah.
The game will start out and people will be drawing nice things, you know, my icon's a pumpkin, my icon's a crescent moon, but by the end of it, it's all dicks.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. I think it averages out to second game. I think the first game everyone draws something normal. On average, the second game, at least one of the avatars is going to be a dick. It's almost always, if not all of them.
Yep.
As soon as people realize, like, oh,
freedom?
Yeah, you're going to finish a game. It's funny. The game allows you to just roll into another game using the same faces. Mm-hmm. Almost always people are like, nope, start over.
Yep.
New room code. I want to draw something different. And you know, at least one person is like, I'm going to draw a dick. And I'm going to
be the cleverest person in the room. No one has thought of this yet.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to love it.
But then it's great if everyone is that person. They're all like, no one else is drawing a dick but me. Like, what? It's all dicks.
My favorite part is after everybody's drawn everything and done all the guessing, and then you find out what it actually is, and the person who had to draw this poor, pitiful creature is like, I did the best that I could, and everybody in the room looks at him like, how are we supposed to know that this was a dog riding a giraffe?
Yeah. I mean, that's what we want. We want people to actively be laughing and or yelling at each other. Like that's a success in my mind.
Well, I think that's a pretty good place to start the round down the show. I like that. That's a good message to go with the game. But as we come to the end of our program, I've always enjoyed the Inside the Actor Studios method on ending on a questionnaire. So I too have a reappropriated version of the Proust Personality Questionnaire, and it goes a little something like this. Arnie, what's your favorite word?
My favorite, I should have thought about this beforehand. My favorite word right now is probably my daughter's name.
Oh, and which is?
Scout.
Absolutely wonderful. And your least favorite word?
My least favorite word is probably outside because it is so cold outside. I'm actually looking out the window and it's just snowing like crazy.
Yeah, I was saying, we were talking before we started recording about it. It's negative what?
Right now, it's probably like, it's actually probably in the positive digits. Last night it was like -6, and I don't even know what it was with the wind chill.
No, thank you.
Last winter with the polar vortex, it got down to, with a wind chill, -40, which was insane. And I wouldn't have gone outside except I have a dog.
Like, I don't even realize that that's a number.
I didn't think that was possible. It was crazy. I'm glad that I had an excuse to go out because it's sort of like you have to experience that.
Yeah, that's briefly. That's the place where Celsius and Fahrenheit match. Just for the record, that's the point at which those two scales start to match. That's how cold we're talking about.
Yeah,
here.
It's crazy. It's way too cold. In fact, I was under the impression that it doesn't snow at this temperature. Like, doesn't it have to be warmer than this to snow? But it is snowing. I don't know. As a trivia writer, I should know that. I forget all the facts.
What sound or noise do you love?
Laughter. I do really just, I just find laughter to be very enriching. It's such a, I love serious things, but just getting a laugh or just laughing myself is my favorite sound.
And what's your least favorite sound?
Oh gosh, my least favorite sound. It's so funny, it's funny that I talk about my favorite thing being my daughter, but right now my least favorite sound, we have this monitor. She's not here right now. We have this monitor, and we're still in the early stage where she doesn't sleep a super long time.
Right.
When I hear that noise of her starting to wake up in the monitor, it's like, I love her, but it's it's like a horror movie. It's like, oh no,
oh she's coming.
She's waking up.
What hero or heroine, no judgments here, do you identify with the most?
Oh boy, what hero or heroine do I identify with the most? I've never been a big hero person, actually. I don't know why. I have a huge amount so I'll try to think of someone that I have a huge amount of respect for. I feel like I haven't talked enough about game stuff. Not that it matters during this interview. I'm just a huge Tim Schafer fan. Always have been.
Mm-hmm.
Day of the Tentacle, Grim Fandango were very, very formative games for me.
Absolutely.
The Monkey games, of course. Like
that, and not to mention some of the more like Psychonauts and
Psychonauts is such a great game. Like the last level is too hard, but it's one of the few people that like legitimately use humor well in games. Like not just like there are a lot of games that are supposedly funny and they just have jokes in them and they may or may not be funny. Like he uses jokes that are funny but also further the story. Like Psychonauts, like there are level designs that are just these elaborate jokes that are so smart but also really funny. Like it's amazing. I'm a big
and I feel like he has a good grasp of visual humor as well. You know, he uses all of the technology to his advantage. It's not just throwing words and funny at you.
Exactly.
What villain or villainess?
Who is my villain? Like
yeah,
who's my arch nemesis? That's a good question. I don't know. I will just pick. I'm taking way too long to think of it, so I'll just pick Doctor Doom.
Fair enough.
We've got to stop Doctor Doom.
What would be your superpower?
My superpower would be would either be to stop time or teleportation. I've had way too many long drunken debates about flying versus invisibility. Flying is the worst power.
Yeah.
It's very aspirational. You are going to get yourself caught and vivisected if you fly.
Yeah, not to mention all of the physics factors that come along with that.
But if you can stop time, that's the most powerful, reasonable power to have.
Yeah. What would be your super weakness?
My super weakness would be over digression. I constantly digress and digressions within digressions.
Oh, digresception. What turns you on creatively? What gets your wheels going?
Collaboration.
Yeah.
The blank page is awful. That's also part of why I love improv. And as a director, whether it's working with other writers or whether it's working with the artists and stuff, I love, ideas beget ideas. And I love being like, with Drawful was sort of like, what if it was all just drawn? Like, what if it looked kind of simple, almost bad, but in a good way? And our artist, Allard, who's amazing, went away, and like almost the first thing he made, we're like, yes, this is exactly
you get it.
Yes. And but it's not even just like that he's an extension of my will. It's like he brought so many things. Everyone in the team brings so many things that I never could, and that's, I think, what's fun about.
Yeah, I love that Pong effect where when you hit something and it hits something else, that ball starts to go faster and faster and faster. Exactly. And it becomes bigger and better and awesome.
And weirder. That's my favorite thing. Two minds will make something much weirder than one mind will ever make.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. What turns you off?
I think people who judgments that are very absolutist, like people dismissing whole genres of things, or people like having thinking. I mean, it can be as big as racism, where you're dismissing an entire race, or sexual preference or something like that, or as small as being like, oh, I don't like this one small thing in a game, so it's broken. That's a very like internet mentality that I see a lot, and that turns me off just in general.
Fair enough.
I'm a fan of nuance, basically, is what I'm saying.
What other gift would you wish to have been gifted with? What other talent, would you wish to have been gifted with?
I would love to be able to play a musical instrument, probably the piano, but just never
got around to cultivating that.
Never did.
Yeah. What advice would you give to your 13-year-old self?
Oh gosh. I would this is probably pretty common advice, but like, chill out a little bit. Not that I was an overly serious kid, but just like, it's going to be okay. you know, don't be as scared of rejection from girls specifically, but life in general as you are, and it's all gonna be fine. Just relax and be a little more bad, maybe.
What is something that only you do?
Uh, what is something that only I do? I don't know. I'm tempted to do some weird physical thing, but I can't. It's a very Steve Martin response.
Right.
I don't know. Something that I do. I don't know. I don't have a good one for that. I'm sure it's not just me, but quit Diet Coke like almost weekly. It's something that I know not just I do, but it's like.
Oh, I see. So you'll give it up eventually at some point?
I am officially giving it up right now. Maybe this might be the last one.
Wow. Right here on the show. Last Diet Coke.
Yeah.
For a week. What is your favorite curse word?
I think I mostly use the sort of religious ones like God damn it and hell and stuff from my like lapsed Catholic background. I don't know. I think the one that I just like the sound of the best is cocksucker. I think it's just got a lot of plosives in it.
Yeah.
But it's got a sort of like, it definitely has some negative like homophobic connotations that I'm not a fan of. So it's one of those things where it's like, I like it, but I feel like I probably should get rid of it out of my.
There needs to be another word with that set of consonant sounds.
Exactly. I guess motherfucker also has a close.
Could you say cucksucker? I don't know. Can
maybe I should continue to use it, but only as a compliment.
Yes. I like this. There's a campaign a couple of friends of mine do where they, instead of like saying nut up, they say pussy up, and quit being such a pair of balls when you're weaning out of something. So it's really funny to kind of flip those and take them back, as it were.
Yeah.
Where would you one day like to live?
My wife would like to live somewhere warmer, and she's really starting to get me to think that she's probably right.
There's always this certain time of year that makes it much easier to wish that.
Yeah. Two of my favorite places I've spent extended periods of time in that I think I would love to live in are London and New Orleans. Both are those cities are just very distinctly themselves. Yeah. But I don't know. So London is crazy expensive, and New Orleans, like, that just seems like I would just be a different person. Like, there's certain cities where it's just like your lifestyle.
It's just so completely different of a city, of an environment, of a place to.
Yeah. And it's not even the drinking and partying. It's just like the whole vibe of New Orleans, the whole mentality. It's really cool, but it's just sort of like.
By comparison to Chicago, night and day is probably the more accurate comparison.
Yeah.
So our last question here, if you had a choice, how long would it take you to respawn after you died?
Oh boy, that is a good question. I feel like I can think of a valid excuse for every answer. Getting up immediately is exciting, but then there's also this idea of like, maybe wait 100 years and see what happens. Yeah. But then also it just might be, you know what? I'm gonna split the difference and I'll say 50 years. Just get a little bit of a rest.
Yeah. A little bit of a walk around, maybe spook some people for fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Fair enough. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, that brings us to the end of our program. I want to thank my very special guest, Arnie, for coming on the show. I really appreciate you, and I hope you had a good time.
I did.
Is there anything you'd like to plug before we get out of here?
As if it's not abundantly clear, I think people should go out and get the Jackbox Party Pack. It's available on a lot of platforms.
At a very low price point, considering how many and how great of games you get for them.
Yeah, I mean, the last Jack cost more than the Jackbox Party Pack did, and this has 5 games in it. Some of them are maybe more home runs than others are, but it's still an insane value, I think. So definitely get the Jackbox Party Pack. Tell all your friends. We've been around a long time, so people maybe think of us as being this massive company. We're really a small indie, and we can use the word of mouth and any chance people have, if you love the games, tell somebody, because we're the kind of company that can really benefit from that type of word of mouth.
Absolutely. And where can they find you guys on Twitter?
We have too many different Twitters.
Let's do yours in the official.
Yeah, the official one is either at You Don't Know Jack or at Jackbox Games. Mine is at Mr. Arnie, MisterArnie. I also encourage people to check out our Twitch show every Friday at 2 Central Time, Jackbox Games at Twitch. We really, as with all things, we kind of over deliver, and we try to answer lots of questions in the chat.
Yeah.
We delve deep into all kinds of weird minutia about the games. And also we just do weird stuff.
And you'll stay for multiple hours. Like, it's not a short stream. You're looking at like 3, 4, sometimes longer hours.
Yeah, definitely. It's sometimes too long.
Yeah.
But also, if you miss it, our YouTube page, Jackbox Games on YouTube, you can watch all the old episodes. If you want to see what Cookie Masterson looks like, we interview Tom Gottlieb, the voice of Cookie, and you can see his face. And we interview Harry about the first You Know Jack. If you're a You Know Jack fan or a Fibbiger Drawful fan, there's a lot of fun stuff to delve into.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. And you've been watching this on youtube.com/Tim Leftwich. My name is Tim Leftwich. And yeah, I think that about covers it. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And as always, we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.